what was your assumption of where Mark was at that point?
In bed sleeping.
Okay, so what did you do when you got back home?
When I got back home, I went inside, but I noticed right away the door was unlocked, which was very unusual, as well as the dining room light was on. But I did see my husband's shoes right at the doorway, so I knew he was sleeping.
Okay, so what was your impression then that the door was unlocked and the light was on?
I was like, wow, he must have been drunker than I thought and must have just passed out.
Okay, so what did you do once you got into the house?
I went inside. I went to the couch to sleep there, but A, it wasn't comfortable, and B, if Mark would have woke up to go use the restroom, he would have walked right past me, and that might have upset him, so I decided to go upstairs.
All right, and had you ever spent the night upstairs before?
No, I don't even know. Maybe been upstairs once or twice.
Okay, what was upstairs?
There's 2 bedrooms, but I slept in the small one right when you got upstairs.
Okay. Now, were you able to get any sleep up there?
A little bit.
And at any point during the evening, did you do anything else with the cameras?
Yeah, when I woke up at one point, and I remember thinking, where am I? I mean, because I was in an unusual spot. And then, like, everything was going through my mind of everything that happened that night. So I was like, oh my gosh, I need to turn the cameras back on so I don't get in trouble for turning them off to come home.
That's something that you felt that Mark would, that you would get in trouble for, so to speak?
Yes.
All right. So no dispute that at some point after returning home that you turned the cameras back on?
Correct. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a follow-up question. Overruled. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, Lori, about what time do you think that you got up that morning?
I want to say it was around 6:30.
Okay. Was it light out yet? Was it dark? What was the conditions that you recall?
I mean, it was lighter than when I got home, but it was still a little dark.
All right. So what was the plan when you got up? What did you intend to do?
Go downstairs and demand an apology from my husband.
At that point in time, did you feel that Mark would be violent or aggressive?
No, because he would have been more sober.
Okay. You figured that is this the type of state that you would go to Mark in when you would get apologies in the past?
Yes.
All right. So once you got up, describe what you did.
Once I got up, I used the restroom and then went to our bedroom.
And what did you find when you went into the bedroom?
Our bed was unmade, and there was like pillows everywhere.
Was Mark in there?
No.
Did that alarm you at that point, Lori?
Yeah, because I had no idea where he was.
So what was your thought of where you would look next?
I thought I would go see if he actually took the Subaru somewhere last night, and I just didn't catch it.
Okay. And when you were getting up in the morning, did you have your cell phone with you at that time, Lori?
No. Well, it was upstairs.
Okay. Upstairs where you had slept?
Correct. It was in my purse.
All right. And I'm going to ask that we go to a video on Ms. Witzke's computer here. And this will be Exhibit 507 from the video file, subfile video 1. Lori, do you see that exhibit up on the screen right now?
I do.
And is that you in the photograph to the left?
Yes.
Is that the position where the truck was parked after you returned back home?
Yes.
Lori, what are you doing in this video clip?
I went outside to go to the garage.
Okay, and I'm going to give you the laser pointer. I want you to point out where to the garage you were headed towards.
The door is right there.
Okay, so you're pointing at, looks like there's part of the side door visible on the garage, is that correct?
Right, it's brown.
At this point, Lori, did you have any reason to believe that Mark had been injured?
None, no.
All right, let's play the clip. All right. Does that is that consistent with what you remember initially coming out of the house, that you were walking just towards the garage to see whether or not the Subaru was there?
Correct.
And Lori, did you appear to be upset or visibly shaken in that particular clip?
No.
All right. If we could get clip number 2 ready to go, please. All right. So, Lori, did you make it all the way to the garage when you went out looking for Mark?
No,
Why not?
because I saw my husband out of the corner of my eye.
How did you react to that?
I freaked out and I ran straight to him.
Okay. I'm going to play clip number 2 at full volume, please. Lori, what were we hearing in that clip?
Me
What were you doing?
yelling, crying,
And why were you crying?
because I found my husband dead.
Is that the exact moment that you saw that Mark was out there?
Yes.
Let's get clip number 3 up, please. Lori, what did you do when you saw Mark laying out in the snowbank?
I ran to him.
And what did you see about or notice about Mark when you ran to him?
That he wasn't breathing. He wasn't alive anymore.
What led you to believe that he wasn't alive?
His hands were like purple. I could tell. It was obvious.
And how did you react to seeing Mark out there dead?
I mean, I mean,
You need a minute?
how did I react? I mean, I was in disbelief. I was in shock. I just ran. Then I ran inside the house to go get my phone to call 911.
You didn't have your phone with you at that point?
I did not have my phone. No.
I've got clip number 3 up here. Lori, do you recognize yourself in that clip?
Yes.
All right, if we could play clip number 3, please.
That one takes me right back to that day.
Lori, do you need a moment?
No.
What was happening in that clip?
I was running back inside to go get my phone to call 911.
And it sounds like you were screaming or crying during that clip.
Correct.
And it sounds like a stupid question, but I have to ask you, why were you screaming or crying?
Because I just found my husband.
Now, prior to these video clips that we just showed, Lori, did you have any idea that Mark had passed away?
No, none.
After running into the house, where did you go?
I ran upstairs to get my phone to call 911.
And we've heard the 911 call. I'm not going to play that again. But do you remember much about that call, Lori?
No.
Why not?
I was in shock. I just remember answering whatever they needed me to answer and trying to do whatever they needed me to do.
What did you hope that the 911 dispatcher would do?
Bring help.
Did you think at that point that there was any point that Mark could be revived based on your observations?
No.
So, do you recall Sergeant Valencia arriving at your house?
I wouldn't have known who he was, but yes, I remember a police officer getting there, yes.
And what was your condition or your state of mind when Sergeant Valencia arrived?
Again, I was in shock.
Do you feel like you had a clear head when you were talking to Sergeant Valencia?
No.
Do you remember much of what you said to Sergeant Valencia?
No.
How about Deputy Stoetinger, who took you inside?
I remember being inside with Mr. Leinfelder. I don't remember.
And let's talk about Mr. Leinfelder. Is that somebody that you had known of, at the very least, prior to February 22nd of 2019?
Yes.
In what capacity?
Just from Crosse. I've known Fritz for 30-plus years. Excuse me, Mr. Leinfelder.
Just from seeing him around?
Correct.
And do you remember much of your conversation with Mr. Leinfelder inside of the house?
I mean, I remember telling him, answering his questions. Do I remember everything I said? No.
At some point, did you go to the Homeland Police Department to talk to Investigator Leinfelder?
I did.
And what was your impression of why you did that?
So that we could figure out what happened to Mark. So I could help him, give him any information I knew.
At that point, did you have any reason to believe that you were a suspect in Mark's death?
None. No, I thought Fritz was helping me.
And what were you trying to get out to Mr. Leinfelder when you were talking to him at the Homeland Police Department?
What was I trying to get out?
Yeah, that was poorly phrased. What were you trying to communicate to him?
I just wanted him to know everything that happened and hoping that he could figure out what happened.
Lori, were you still upset during that time frame?
Yes.
Were you thinking very clearly at that point?
I'm sure not, no.
And were there details or facts that you left out of that interview with Mr. Leinfelder?
Clearly there were, because it had stated that in the video. I continuously said, I forgot this, I forgot this.
Was that because you were trying to mislead Investigator Leinfelder?
Absolutely not.
Now, do you remember Investigator Leinfelder asking you specifically about whether or not there was a history of domestic abuse during that interview?
Now I remember, yes, because I read the transcripts.
And at the time, do you recall indicating that there wasn't much of a history of domestic abuse?
No, I stated Mark's never punched me, is what I said.
Okay. Did you bring up the fact that Mark had choked you in the past?
At that moment, no. I didn't want Mark to come off as a bad person.
Or any of the other incidents with Mark?
No.
And you jumped one question ahead of me, Lori, but why didn't you bring up the prior acts of domestic abuse at that time?
As I stated to Mr. Leinfelder immediately, he was a good man, and I didn't want to tarnish what his thought process would have been of my husband.
Is that why you said that Mark was such a good guy?
Yeah.
Now, do you recall having a discussion with Investigator Leinfelder about the fact that you and Mark had argued earlier in the evening?
Yes.
And Lori, at some point, did you try to show Investigator Leinfelder an area where you had a bruise?
Yeah, I remember telling him that I felt different in different areas, but I hadn't seen anything yet.
And did Investigator Leinfelder appear to take a closer look at your neck or chest area?
I remember him saying that he thought he saw something on my neck, yes.
Did anyone offer to photograph that or document the injury?
No.
Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the injuries here. And I'm going to go back to the Elmo, please. Do you recall Hannah Klinsky coming to stay with you after Mark passed away?
Yes, she came on Saturday.
And how do you recall, Lori, noticing that you had these bruises and injuries on you the following day?
It was after I took a shower and I got out of the shower.
And did Hannah have a reaction to the fact that you were bruised?
Yes, she's like, oh my God, we need to take pictures of this.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 520, previously received. Lori, what are we looking at there?
My leg.
And this is the bruise that Hannah described as like a boot print or a footprint?
Correct.
Exhibit 522. Was that a photograph of?
That looks like another leg picture as well.
Exhibit 521. Can't quite tell if this is a shoulder or a leg, but is that a bruise?
It is.
Did you have bruising along your shoulders from where Mark had pushed you into the truck?
I mean, that picture, I'm not positive if that's a shoulder or a leg. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Or, well, I'm asking, Lori, did you have bruises along your arm where Mark had?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes.
I'll show you Exhibit 523. What is that a picture of?
My arm.
And what, if you recall, is that injury from?
Mark grabbing me and pulling me around the truck.
Did these bruises hurt Lori the next day?
Yes.
Exhibit 524. What are we looking at on this?
I see a bruise and something else, and then like that red mark.
Okay. And is that something that happened during when Mark had been physically abusive with you on February 22nd?
Yes.
This next one I'm not going to display. I'm just going to ask you to look at it. This is picture 525, the injury of the of your breast. What are we looking at here?
A bruise on my right, it looks like maybe my right breast.
Okay. Was that something that was sustained in the course of Mark physically abusing you on February 22nd as well?
It was.
Was that the bruise or the injury that you were talking about when you described to Mark that your boob hurt?
Correct.
At any point, did any investigator from the sheriff's department or otherwise ask you to come in and be photographed or otherwise document your injuries?
No.
Would you have done so had you been asked?
Yes.
Now, I want to talk to you about your comments during your interview with Investigator Leinfelder. Do you recall, Lori, whether or not, what your response was to Investigator Leinfelder when he asked whether or not you hit your husband with the truck?
I said I did not.
What's your impression, or did you believe at that time that you had hit Mark?
No.
To this day, are you even sure exactly what happened once Mark reached that driver's side of the truck?
I have no idea what happened to my husband.
Lori, do you know for certain that Mark was not in front of the truck when you hit the gas?
Yes, that's what I could see. I could see in front of the truck when I was driving away because my headlights were on.
We're getting to the end here, and I'm going to ask you the big questions, Lori. At any point when you were escaping from Mark on February 22nd of 2019, did you believe that you were creating a substantial risk of killing him or causing serious bodily injury?
Objection calls for legal.
For perception, Judge.
Well, it is a legal conclusion sustained. Go ahead.
Did you believe that Mark was at any risk when you were leaving?
No.
Did you believe that your act of leaving would be likely to kill or seriously injure Mark?
No.
Did you think that you even had a remote chance of injuring Mark when you hit the gas when he was on the driver's side of the truck?
No.
Was it ever your intent to injure Mark?
Never. No.
Lori, what was your sole purpose for trying to get away from Mark that night?
To get away from him so that I would be safe, to get to safety.
Despite everything that we've heard and everything that we've testified to in this trial, how do you feel about Mark today?
I love him. I miss him.
Thank you. I have nothing further.